Yossi Waxman is an artist and author. Recently, he mounted a new exhibition, Drowning, at the I24NEWS Museum and published a new novel as well called The History of Art. Very happy to have him here in the studio to tell us all about it. Hi, Yossi.
Hello.
So, what do you want to start with? The exhibition or the book?
Whatever.
Okay, let's start with the exhibition.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. This exhibition was created in my mind right after the big war last summer. I had a solo exhibition as well in the I24NEWS gallery, and in the beginning of the exhibition there was the 4 little kids that we killed accidentally, our Air Force, and I was going around the exhibition and said, "Oh my goodness, I wish I could drown myself in the Mediterranean," and I wanted to drown everyone. So after the exhibition finished, I started to think about it, and I decided to take all my family and drown them in the Mediterranean. My family, those kids of Gaza, and everyone. Since my family is a very old family in Israel, and my roots are from Hebron, Halil, and at the time of the First World War, they were not allowed to be in Israel. They were exiled to Egypt, to Alexandria, because they were considered Russian immigrants, Russian citizens, living in the Ottoman Empire. So the Turks exiled them to Alexandria, and that was the story start. You know, the same Mediterranean,
the personal and the political tied together.
So this Mediterranean, you know, Jaffa. I was born in Jaffa. My grandma, at the time of the Second World War, searched my father for my grandpa in Europe. He just vanished and he went to Europe. He wanted to be secular and stuff like that. So everything actually is bubbling in this Mediterranean, and I decided to do it, you know. And I actually took all the photos, you know, my sister, my great grandma, my uncles, and everyone, and some of let's say history of art
main
pieces.
Figures,
like the Meninas of Velázquez, and I drowned them in the sea. These are the kids, those 4 or 3 kids that were.
Yeah, it's a very powerful work, no question about it. It also connects to your novel, which is called The History of Art.
Yeah. Which is actually, it's history of art, but it's actually the history of Israel, or history of the land. This is the story of a bunch of artists, the time of the 50s, and they resettled and abandoned a Arab village on the mountain hill, and they decided to make it an artist village.
Now this isn't far from the real history of I24NEWS, which is where you live.
And this is actually you know, those times of the 50s, it was considered okay to resettle abandoned Arab villages, and what happened is that I decided to tell the story, you know, back and forth. You know, I'm telling also about 2 artists, or nowadays contemporary artists, that find themselves in the middle of the big fire that was in the Carmel 7 years ago.
A few years ago, right?
Yeah, in 2005. And since it was a huge fire, and the police and the fire brigade decided to evacuate the village, and they just chased away everyone from the village. So, and I was between those artists, and I felt. And that's where it began. I felt like a refugee. I knew that my house is maybe on fire. It wasn't certain about that.
Yeah.
And we were sitting, you know, in my sister-in-law's house, looking at the television. Know that our house is. And this is how it began.
Yeah.
And I'm telling this story, you know, and it's a story about these two contemporary artists, and also about. One of the artists, lady painter from the founders,
right?
And she had an affair with an Arab that came to work in the village as a, just.
It sounds super interesting. I want you to, although,
Yes.
to keep something for us to read in the book.
Okay,
and I
darling.
want to ask you, because you started writing when you were an established artist already. How did that happen? I mean, when did you decide that you suddenly want to write? And how do you wake up in the morning and what do you do first? You sit down and write, or you go paint, or what?
No. First of all, it didn't start like that. I think it is because of my mother's death. She died when she was very young, 52, and I think this is where it started. But maybe this is what I think nowadays. Painting wasn't enough for me, to be accurate, to make a whole world, to play not only with space but also with time, And I started with children books, and after 2-3 children books, I wrote my first novel, and from there. And, when I was writing, for something like 15 years, I didn't paint at all. Only when we moved to Ein-Hod, I started to paint again. And now I can converge those two arts, which is very, very hard because you can't, give all of yourself to one art and to the other at the same time.
Exactly.
But I think I can cope with it now.
You're managing it well.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Yossi, thanks so much for coming in and telling us
Welcome.
about this.
Okay. Bye-bye.